Picture this. The air is thick with the scent of lake water, burning copal incense, and copper. You are standing on the summit of the great temple of Tenochtitlan. Below you, the grandest city on earth is burning. It is August, 1521. Spanish steel has pushed to the very heart of the Aztec Empire. The end seems inevitable. But then, the tipping point. Hernán Cortés, the Spanish commander, makes a fatal miscalculation. He is isolated on the narrow causeways of the lake. In our timeline, he escaped. But in this world, an obsidian blade finds its mark. Cortés falls. The Spanish retreat degenerates into a panic-stricken rout. The conquistadors, weighed down by gold and heavy armor, are dragged into the dark waters of Lake Texcoco. The siege is broken. The Spanish Empire in the Americas is decapitated before it can even begin. But this victory is just the start of a much larger, much more dangerous story. Because the Aztecs know the pale strangers will return. And the world is about to change forever. With Cortés dead, the fragile alliance between the Spanish and local indigenous rivals dissolves. The Aztecs, or the Mexica, waste no time. They do not celebrate, they prepare. They realize their wood and stone weapons are no match for European steel. So, they adapt. They salvage every discarded Spanish sword, every breastplate, every arquebus. They capture horses, breeding them in the high valleys of Mexico. Within a decade, the Aztec military is transformed. Imagine a division of Aztec jaguar warriors, clad in steel-reinforced armor, riding into battle on horseback, wielding captured muskets alongside obsidian-tipped spears. It sounds like fantasy. But in this timeline, it is survival. But the Aztecs face an enemy far deadlier than Spanish steel. Smallpox. In our history, the invisible killer wiped out up to 90% of the indigenous population. Here, the plague still strikes. It is devastating. The streets of Tenochtitlan fall silent. But because the Aztec leadership remains intact, the empire does not collapse into civil war. They implement strict, desperate quarantine measures, drawing on their advanced knowledge of sanitation and herbal medicine. The empire bends, but it does not break. Slowly, agonizingly, the population develops immunity. The survivors are hardened, united, and furious. When the Second Spanish Armada arrives 30 years later, they expect to find a land of ghosts, ripe for the taking. Instead, as their ships drop anchor off the coast of Veracruz, they are met by a terrifying sight. Fortifications built of stone and reinforced with captured iron. Cannons, cast in Mesoamerican copper foundries, lining the beaches. And a highly disciplined, cavalry-backed army waiting for them. The invasion is a bloody disaster for Spain. Europe is forced to realize a brutal truth: the Aztecs cannot be conquered. They must be negotiated with. This is the moment the butterfly effect spirals. Without the silver of Mexico flowing freely into Spanish coffers, the Spanish Empire cannot finance its endless wars in Europe. Spain's golden age collapses before it even starts. England and France rise to dominance much earlier, but they do not look to conquer Mesoamerica. They look to trade with it. By the 17th century, Tenochtitlan is the undisputed trade hub of the Western Hemisphere. Imagine Dutch, English, and French merchants walking the bustling marketplaces of the capital, marveling at the floating gardens of the Chinampas. Aztec merchants trade chocolate, vanilla, and cochineal dye more valuable than gold for European glass, printing presses, and scientific instruments. The Aztecs do not reject European technology, they devour it. They build their own merchant fleets, sailing across the Atlantic to trade directly with London and Amsterdam. But what about their culture? What about the human sacrifice that defined their religion? As the Aztecs integrate into the global economy, their society undergoes a profound reformation. Just as European Christianity evolved over centuries, the Aztec faith adapts. The ritual sacrifice of captured enemies slowly transitions into symbolic offerings, driven by a new merchant class that values trade partners over sacrificial victims. The Great Temple remains, but it is no longer a place of slaughter. It is the spiritual heart of an empire that sees itself as the center of the universe. Let's fast forward to the 19th century. While Europe is tearing itself apart in the Napoleonic Wars, the Aztec Empire undergoes its own industrial revolution. Steam engines chug along the shores of Lake Texcoco. Steel mills rise in the Valley of Mexico. The ancient canals are widened to accommodate steamships, transporting goods from the Pacific to the Atlantic across a newly constructed Aztec-controlled canal through Nicaragua. By the dawn of the 20th century, the Aztec Empire is not a relic of the past. It is a global superpower. Imagine a modern Tenochtitlan. A sprawling, neon-lit metropolis of 20 million people. High-speed trains glide silently over the ancient canals. Skyscrapers, designed in the majestic, sloping style of ancient pyramids, tower into the sky, their glass facades reflecting the sun. Indigenous languages, primarily Nahuatl, are spoken in boardrooms from Tokyo to London. The eagle perched on the cactus is not just a symbol on a flag, it is the emblem of a currency that rivals the dollar and the euro. In this world, the cultural landscape of the globe is entirely unrecognizable. Native American nations across North America, protected by a powerful Aztec buffer state, form their own modern confederacies. The term New World is never coined, because the old world of the Americas never died. It simply evolved. We often look at history as a straight line, an inevitable march to the present we know. But history is fragile. It hinges on single moments, single decisions, the trajectory of a single arrow or bullet. In our world, Tenochtitlan fell, and a continent was rewritten. But in the grand tapestry of what if, the empire of the sun still shines, dominant, proud, and untamed. What do you think our modern world would look like if the Americas had never been colonized? Would we be living in a more peaceful world, or just a different kind of empire? Let me know in the comments below. If you want to explore more hidden paths of history and mythology, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. The past is full of secrets, and we are just getting started.